Star Wars, Fruits of Betrayal, Prologue. By Celgress. A long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. 20 BBY. Coruscant. I need to leave Coruscant immediately. When is the next scheduled flight off planet and where is its destination? Ahsoka Tano asked the Toydarian conductor, the being buzzed around her annoyingly reading information from his pad. Ahsoka suppressed a growing urge to strike him with the Force. It would be so easy, her mind whispered. Do it make the insufferable insect pay? No, another part of her said. Unrestrained violence isn't the Jedi way. Why should you care? You aren't a Jedi anymore, and never will be again. They abandoned you. The other part of her stated coldly. A tear trickled down Ahsoka's face at the unvarnished truth. 2100 hours this evening, destination Corellia system. The Toydarian said. Would you like to purchase a ticket, young lady? Yes, Ahsoka said, wiping her eyes. Are you all right, miss? The Toydarian asked, a note of genuine concern in his voice. I recently received some very bad news. My apprenticeship was unexpectedly terminated. Ahsoka said, telling a half-truth. Now I have no reason to remain on Coruscant. Pity, the Toydarian said, shaking his head. Merchant guilds can often be cutthroat with their reasoning. Tell me about it. Ahsoka half-joked with a bitter laugh. Ahsoka frowned at her quickly diminishing pile of credit chips, before stuffing them back into her small pouch. She was already running short on resources, and she hadn't got off planet yet. You can stay here until departure time, if you want, miss. The Toydarian offered, sadness evident in his voice. With a sickening sensation growing in her stomach, Ahsoka sensed he was feeling sorry for her. Imagine that, from respected Jedi Padawan to pathetic failure in less than a standard week. Ahsoka felt dead inside. How could this have happened? What had she done wrong? Why had everyone, save perhaps her former master, turned against her so rapidly? Damn the council and their hypocritical rules. They'd had more faith in Barriss, the true traitor, than they had in her. Barriss, of all the people who could have betrayed her in such a fashion, Ahsoka would have put Barriss low on the list, near the bottom in fact. At one time she and the Mirialan Knight had been inseparable best friends. Why had Barriss picked her of all people as the scapegoat? Ahsoka suspected she'd never learn the reason behind her former friend's horrible deed. Barriss was just another Jedi deceiver. Thank you, I'd like that. Ahsoka said, forcing a smile. It would seem this was her life now. What her former comrades the Jedi had reduced her to, drifting from place to place without purpose, a charity case dependent upon others for her well-being and perhaps her very survival. Although showing a placid exterior, inside Ahsoka was seething, her rage was increasing exponentially with each passing moment. Ahsoka tried in vain to release her feelings into the Force as she'd been taught, without success. I'll be right back, Ahsoka said after receiving her ticket. Outside a few minutes later, Ahsoka leaned against the station door. She was a roiling cauldron of unfamiliar emotions, anger, fear, disappointment, betrayal, and above all else burning hatred. Ahsoka hated the Council, Barriss, the clones, her friends in the Senate, and even Obi-Wan for not believing in her innocence. Hatred is wrong, part of Ahsoka protested. Hate is a path to the dark side. Who cares? Another stronger part of Ahsoka contended. If the Jedi represent the light, then damn the light, I don't need it or want it. I should embrace the darkness, let it fill me up, let it comfort me, it would appear nothing else does now. Ahsoka was appalled by her emotions. Never before had she permitted herself to entertain such blasphemous thoughts. And why not? The Jedi had proven themselves deeply flawed. Perhaps their teachings on the nature of the dark side were also wrong. No, she couldn't, wouldn't, consider that possibility, not yet. The light had given her nothing but false promise. She should give the dark an equal chance. No, the growing ever smaller and weaker part of her protested. She could not betray the Jedi in such a way. Wait, they'd already betrayed her. Whatever happened from this point onward wasn't her responsibility, ultimately it was theirs. Ahsoka staggered against the onslaught of conflicting impulses. She had no idea what to do or where to turn. Only that she desperately needed guidance. She silently prayed she would find it on Corellia, or at least some sort of peace there. Office of the Supreme Chancellor. Palpatine sat steepling his fingers, a serpentine smile spread across his face. With Skywalker's bothersome apprentice finally gone, the youth was one step closer to joining him as a Sith. Soon the Republic would fall and the Jedi Order would be no more. Everything was progressing according to his design. Out of nowhere a vivid vision hit him as if it were riding out of control speeder. Grant me vengeance upon the Jedi Order, I will do whatever you command. Ahsoka Tano said, kneeling before Darth Sidious. Good, the Force is strong with you, Ahsoka, a powerful Sith you shall become. Henceforth you shall be known as Darth Sirin. Arise, Darth Sirin, take your rightful place by my side. Darth Sidious said. Together we shall visit justice upon the arrogant Jedi Order and bring peace to our war-torn galaxy. Fascinating, Palpatine puffed between deep breaths, his heart rate racing, his palms sweaty. Seldom had Palpatine experienced such vivid a premonition. Even in his flustered state, Palpatine grasped the enormity of his vision's meaning. Skywalker's former apprentice would soon pledge herself to the dark side and then his personal service. Once Tano was converted, Palpatine sensed turning Anakin to the dark side would be made far easier. Although he'd planned on maintaining the Sith rule of two indefinitely, Palpatine now knew he'd have to change with the times, as they say. The opportunity of ensnaring not one but two young, powerful apprentices was far too tempting to pass up. Who knows, perhaps he'd retain Dooku's and Grievous' services following the Jedi Purge, both had their uses after all. Slipping on his Sith robe and into his Sidious persona, Palpatine performed a quick check of public transit records, then activated his secret holographic communication unit. A miniature flickering blue hologram of General Grievous appeared. Lord Sidious, the cyborg greeted, bowing at his waist. What is your bidding, my master? General Grievous, I have a rather delicate mission that requires your unique expertise. Darth Sidious said. Rest assured, whatever you desire, my lord, it shall be done. General Grievous said. A public transport, flight number XAX11799996C, will be leaving Coruscant bound for Corellia at 2100 hours HR local time. Traveling on board is disgraced Jedi Padawan Ahsoka Tano. Intercept the transport and retrieve Tano. Darth Sidious instructed. Listen carefully, I want her unharmed and accorded all possible amenities. Tano is not your formal prisoner, nor is she to be treated as such. However, do not permit her to leave until reaching your destination, understand, General? Yes, my lord. General Grievous said. May I ask why Tano is being afforded such special treatment? Because I have foreseen she'll be a valuable future asset for our war effort. Darth Sidious said. Once Tano is in my possession, what should I do with her, lord? General Grievous asked. Transport Tano to Sereno, she'll then be Count Dooku's responsibility. Darth Sidious said. Go, General, do my bidding without delay. At once, Lord Sidious. General Grievous said, rising from his kneeling position before the hologram blinked out of existence. Darth Sidious next wasted no time contacting Count Dooku. My master, Dooku said, kneeling before the greater Dark Lord. My apprentice, I am sending you a powerful new tool in our struggle against the Jedi Order and its Republican lapdogs. Darth Sidious said, grinning manically. A replacement of sorts for your recent lost chief Dark Acolytes. A new trainee, Dooku said uncertainly. Yes, Lord Tyrannus, but much more than that. Darth Sidious said, his grin growing broader. The dark side has shown me she is key to the future of our order. The rule of two is at an end, Lord Tyrannus, our order must adapt or perish. Who is this exceptional individual, my master? Dooku said uncomfortably. You've met her several times, in battle. Darth Sidious said jovially. Her name is Ahsoka Tano. Skywalker's Padawan, Dooku said, taken aback. The same, you Lord Tyrannus will be her initial instructor in the ways of the Sith. Once you've seduced her to the dark side, train her as a true future Sith, not merely as another dark acolyte. However, do not have her undergo the naming ceremony. I insist on reserving that pleasure for when she comes me. Until which time she can remain a Sith in all but name. Do I make myself clear? Darth Sidious growled. Yes, my master, however I must pee. Dooku attempted to protest. Farewell, Lord Tyrannus. Darth Sidious said, deactivating his hologram unit with a flick of his wrist. Darth Sidious leaned back contentedly in his chair. The dark side was indeed generous. Episode 1, Alone with the Dark. Tonight I'm so alone this sorrow takes a hold. I'm falling in the black, slipping through the cracks. Falling to the depths, can I ever go back? Dreaming of the way it used to be. Falling through the black, 2009, Skillet. 20 BBY. Public transport en route to Corellia one day out of Coruscant. Ahsoka Tano sat in the cramped passenger compartment staring out of a viewport. Her meager savings all but exhausted, she had no idea what she'd do once the transport reached Corellia in a couple of days. Fortunately, meals were included with the ticket price, not high-quality meals by any stretch, but at least she wouldn't starve. It dawned on Ahsoka she was worse off than a salve. At least a salve's basic needs were handled off by his or her master. If a salve were lucky, they could get a thoughtful or even nice master who at least treated the salve relatively well. Ahsoka had no such luxury. Perhaps she should sell herself on the open markets of Nal Hutta. A trained force-sensitive salve would fetch a pretty price. Ahsoka shook her head. She couldn't do such a thing. What had she been thinking? She was nobody's salve. I should have stayed at the temple, part of her reasoned. At least until I formulated a plan of action. No, another part of her snapped. I couldn't remain there with people who had no faith in me. Surrounded by traitors who would always doubt my convictions, it would have been a living hell. I'm better off here on my own in spite of the current hardship. I still have my dignity, what's left of it, something I'd have lost if I'd stayed there surrounded by those self-righteous hypocrites. Maybe I should have sold my remaining lightsaber, or at least the crystal, before I left Coruscant. The first part of her thought. At least I'd have plenty of credits, instead of running short. I'd never live with myself. The second part of her argued. It's the only reminder of my former life I have left. Besides, I constructed it myself. Why should another reap the benefits of my hard work? It'd probably have ended up in the hands of Cad Bane, or a Singh, or some other scummy bounty hunter. Holding onto it won't help if I die from malnourishment, the first part of her countered. Damn the Jedi Order for what they've made me become. The pathetic existence they've forced me into. I hate them with every fiber of my being. The second part of her thought. I can't think that. The first part of her thought almost pleading, although it felt more akin to whining. Down that road lays darkness, madness. I won't let it consume me. If I do, I'll lose the last broken shards of myself, of who I am. Anakin wouldn't. If Anakin truly cared, he'd have found a way to stop me, the second part of her all but taunted. He's not different than the rest, another deceiving, disingenuous Jedi. If it had been Obi-Wan or Padme, he'd have done more. Anakin cares about me. The first part of her, though growing weaker, more uncertain on its contention. I can't fool myself any longer. No one from the Jedi Order cares about me. No one loves me. I was only their tool, nothing more. I'm on my own now. In truth, I've always been on my own. The second part of her ranted, its realization hurt more than Ahsoka thought possible. Tears slid down Ahsoka's face, rapidly increasing into small torrents. Soon the Togruta was openly sobbing. Ahsoka knew she was making a spectacle of herself, but for the first time since becoming a Jedi, she couldn't control her emotions. Now her emotional barriers had all but disintegrated, the floodgates were opened. All her pent-up feelings were free and Ahsoka could do nothing to stop them from bubbling to the surface. Ahsoka placed her hand against the viewport. It felt cold, empty inside, like she did between bouts of barely controllable rage. Excusing herself, Ahsoka rushed to the fresher facilities. Ahsoka looked into the hollow mirror after wiping off her face. Wait, did she detect a flicker of yellow in her eyes? Surely not. Inspecting her appearance more closely, Ahsoka was relieved to discover her eyes were their usual blue. That was close. What am I going to do? Part of her thought. I'm running out of credits. I have no final destination in mind. I can depend on no one but myself. If only I had a friend. But I do. Another part of her thought. Lux Bonteri, I could seek him out, go to him. Lux and I have always been close, he would help me, I'm sure. All I need to do is find him. Who knows, perhaps we can be more than friends now. Do I have romantic feelings for Lux? Where had that come from? The first part of her wondered. I'm a Jedi, such feelings are forbidden. Correction, I was a Jedi. The second part of her interrupted. I can feel any way I wish now. I can finally explore what people mean to me, without Jedi prohibitions clouding my mind. I'm free. The implications of this final thought hit Ahsoka hard. She could love, and hate, whomever she pleased. No one could tell her otherwise. She was at last master of her own emotions, for good or ill. Ahsoka's head spun. She gripped the edge of the fresher so hard it cracked. Knowing she couldn't afford to pay for damages, Ahsoka left the room quickly and as inconspicuously as she could manage. Resuming her port side seat, Ahsoka sighed heavily. The invisible hand, 6 standard hours later. General Grievous paced back and forth across the command deck of his flagship. What he was about to attempt would be tricky at best. Intercepting and then attacking a public transport deep within the core systems could prove disastrous if he were detected. Although Grievous cared nothing about politics, even he knew how such an unprovoked attack on a civilian vessel would be viewed in an extremely negative light if discovered. His only choice was to carefully avoid detection by the Republican Navy, no easy feat this close to Coruscant, which is why in large part Grievous took only his flagship on this particularly touchy mission. General, we have sighted the target on large-range sensors. A B-1 battle droid manning tactical said it its usual nasally voice. Excellent, are there any other ships within sensor range? Grievous said raptly, awaiting the answer. His entire strategy depended upon there being no witnesses. Negative, General, the droid replied. Move to intercept, maximum impulse. Grievous ordered, sitting down in his command chair. The game was afoot. On board the public transport, chaos erupted as the vessel was caught by a tractor beam. Ahsoka awoke from a troubled sleep to witness a boarding part made up primarily of B-1 battle droids and a smattering of Neimoidian warriors storm their way into the vessel. The Sith troops merciless gunned down everyone in their path, including the transport security detail made up of older clones. Why were they here? Separatist forces didn't usually attack non-military targets. Banishing such thoughts from mind, Ahsoka focused on her surroundings. Calling her lightsaber through the Force, Ahsoka readied to strike. Target acquired, one of the B-1s announced. 2 Neimoidian warriors knelt down, firing canisters from small mortar tubes. All the Neimoidian warriors quickly donned gas masks. It only took Ahsoka a moment to understand what was occurring. Clouds of noxious gas choked Ahsoka, causing her eyes to water. Focus, Ahsoka told herself, blinking to clear her cloudy vision. It was no use. Ahsoka felt blackness closing around her. No, I must stay awake. I must. Ahsoka collapsed into unconsciousness. Meanwhile, General Grievous was once more pacing around the command deck, hands clasped behind his back. Grievous would have led the boarding party himself if they had not been in Republican space. If enemy vessels happened by in his absence, Grievous didn't want to consider what might happen. His droids were woefully stupid and the Neimoidian officers weren't much better. We've secured the target, General, returning to invisible hand. Obi-Wan's voice crackled across the comm. Copy, Grievous said, stopping in mid-stride. Once the boarding crew has returned, obliterate the transport vessel, no trace of it must remain. Roger, Roger, Obi-Wan replied. Grievous stood still, contemplating his latest success. Both Lord Sidious and Count Dooku would be most pleased. Surely he'd be richly rewarded for his efforts. Plot a course to Sereno. Grievous ordered, settling into his command chair once more. At once, General, a Neimoidian officer said. Coruscant. Anakin, son, I can't help but feel in part responsible for your Padawan's fate. Palpatine said with a grandfatherly smile. It wasn't your fault, sir. Anakin said. If anyone, I blame myself. I should have refused to allow Ahsoka's arrest. Don't blame yourself, Anakin, we all failed Ahsoka. Palpatine said. If only we'd believed in her as you did, this tragedy could have been avoided. I like to think so. Anakin said. Anakin, is there something else troubling you, aside from Ahsoka's fate? Palpatine asked, his voice filled with seemingly genuine concern. The Council didn't believe in Ahsoka. Anakin said, letting out a deep breath. I fear they've never believed in me either. Surely not, Palpatine said, apparently taken aback Anakin's suggestion. You are one of the greatest Jedi alive today, the aptly named hero without fear. Your accomplishments speak volumes. How can the Council doubt you, Anakin? Frankly, I don't believe it. Trust me, they do, they've never believed in me. Anakin repeated, his voice cold, resentful. Never, Palpatine questioned. Never, from the first moment I was brought before them, the Council has always doubted me. Anakin said, running his organic hand through his mop of unruly hair. I recall there were objections to your initial training on part of several Council members. Palpatine said thoughtfully. Do such reservations remain in their minds after all this time? With some, Anakin said, his voice taking on an angry edge. What of Obi-Wan? I heard he has recently been elevated to Council member status. Palpatine said. Didn't he mount an equally vigorous defense of Ahsoka to match your own? Obi-Wan did practically nothing to assist in Ahsoka's defense. He kept telling me to trust in the Force, the Council, the legal system. Anakin said. I alone believed in her innocence. I see, how troubling. I should have broken Barriss' scrawny neck when I had the chance. Anakin, you shouldn't say such things. I know, sir, but I can't help it. I should have done more to help Ahsoka, everyone in the Order should have. Anakin, I hate seeing you in such pain. Is there anything I can do? Palpatine said warmly, laying his hand on Anakin's shoulder. Thank you, sir, your support means everything to me. Anakin said, smiling. I wish I could stay long, but duty calls. I have to goodbye. Palpatine watched Anakin leave his office. Ahsoka's departure had brought Anakin closer than ever to the dark side. As a result, his fall would be achieved with far less effort than it would have otherwise required. However, the Force whispered to Sidious that he must tread carefully. His visions of the future had become muddled. Things were in greater flux than in over a decade. Everything was moving, taking uncertain paths. Loose ends must be tied up. With that in mind, Palpatine donned his Sith robe and Sidious persona. Activating his secret hologram emitter, he opened a channel. Greetings, Lord Sidious, a small blue hologram of infamous bounty hunter Cad Bane said, bowing low. I assume you have a job that needs my unique touch. Perceptive as always, Cad Bane, Sidious said. I do appreciate a sharp intellect in my employees. I need Rouge Jedi saboteur and assassin Barriss eliminated before she stands trail for her crimes. I will pay whatever amount you see fit. Additionally, the sooner a fee is no more, the higher a bonus I shall gift you, understand? Consider her ancient history, Lord Sidious. Cad Bane said ominously. Good, farewell, Cad Bane. Sidious said, deceiving his hologram unit. Drumming his fingers along the desk surface, Sidious grinned sinisterly. If he were to secure Ahsoka's and maintain Anakin's trust, his role in Barriss Offee's schemes must never be uncovered. Luckily, disposing of Barriss in a timely fashion should prove rather easy. Cad Bane was the best active bounty hunter, he'd succeed in his task. Barriss was merely another tool that had become blunted, her usefulness at an end along with her life. The Invisible Hand, 2 hours later. The first sight that greeted Ashoka's eyes once she regained consciousness was General Grievous' golden eyes. Instinctively Ashoka jumped at his presence. Ashoka scurried across the bed, getting as far away from the cyborg monstrosity as she could manage. "Greetings, young one, I hope you find our accommodations to your liking," Grievous said in a rather friendly tone which perplexed Ashoka. Since when was Grievous anything other than a raving lunatic? Where am I? What do you want? Ashoka squeaked in fear. "We desire nothing other than your company," Grievous said, taking a step forward. "Stay back, I'm armed," Ashoka warned, reaching for her lightsaber. It wasn't there, her hand came back empty. "I took the liberty of having your lightsaber removed," Grievous said almost jovially. "We were concerned you may do yourself or others undue harm. So I'm your prisoner," Ahsoka said. "Absolutely not," Grievous said. "Rather we view you as a special guest." "Who are we?" "My masters, the Sith Lords, of course." "The Sith Lords?" Ahsoka repeated. "Dooku and his own master Lord Sidious," Grievous said. Ahsoka noted the reverence in Grievous' modulated voice as spoke Sidious' name. "Where are you taking me?" "To meet Count Dooku on Sereno," Grievous informed her. "Why?" Ahsoka said. A terrible feeling of dread crept into her mind. "Count Dooku will complete your training in use of the Force," Grievous said matter-of-factly. "I don't care if the Jedi Order has turned their back on me. I will never join the dark side. I will never become one of you," Ahsoka said defiantly while vigorously shaking her head. "Never say never, young one," Grievous said. "I was once like you, young, idealistic, until I too was betrayed by the Jedi. I highly doubt that. We have nothing in common. We never have and never will." "I admire your convictions, young one," Grievous said with his version of a laugh. "However, as you grew older you shall learn few things in life are certain. Most truths we cling to depend greatly upon one's point of view. I'm a child of light, not darkness," Ahsoka said. "Torture me, I'll die before changing my allegiance." "The Jedi would be proud," Grievous said with mock clapping. "How sad they chose not to reciprocate your devotion, truly a pity. Blind loyalty is wasted loyalty." "What do you know of loyalty?" "More than you obviously do, young one," Grievous said. "I only give my loyalty to those who appreciate it and reward it. Not to those like the Jedi who lack honor." "The Jedi have honor," Ahsoka said, her voice wavering. "What's the matter, young one? I detect doubt in your voice." "They have honor, I know they do." "Do they? Why then did they reward your loyalty with treachery? You and your masters betrayed Ventress," Ahsoka pointed out. "Wrong, young one, Ventress betrayed my masters first," Grievous stated, relating the story he'd be told. "She sided with the Night Sisters over us and trained her own apprentice to assassinate Count Dooku. It doesn't matter, I won't join you." "I can't join you. I'd be betraying everything I have ever held dear," Ashoka said, hugging her knees. "I'm not a traitor." "No, you are a fool, young one," Grievous said, glaring at Ahsoka. "The Jedi have already betrayed you, holding on to misguided faith in them is futile." Grievous whirled around, stalking away. He gave the pair of Magna Guards stationed by the door to Ahsoka's quarter orders. "She is free to roam the ship, but not leave it. If she tries to either leave or attack, prevent her by using whatever means are necessary. Escort her wherever she may go. Save classified areas, the entire vessel is at her disposal. See she is fed at an appropriate time." Each Magna Guard nodded their understanding. Farewell, young one. We shall see each other soon. Grievous said over his shoulder. Ahsoka continued sitting on the bed long after Grievous had left. Slowly rocking, she hugged her knees. She knew she should try to escape, but how? If she did escape, then what? It wasn't as if she had anywhere to go. He's right, Grievous is right, the Jedi aren't worthy of my loyalty or continued admiration. Part of her thought. Turns out they never were. I was only fooling myself. Willfully ignoring their many flaws, I was blind, now I see. Grievous is a monster. Another part of her thought. Think of how many of your friends he's murdered in cold blood. Remember, he was ready to kill younglings. They were Jedi, they weren't my friends, none of them, not really. The first part of her mentally shouted. The younglings no doubt would have been better off if he'd killed them. At least they'd never face the possibility of betrayal, as I did. Ahsoka's eyes widened at this last thought, so morally repugnant was it. She could hardly believe she'd entertained such a notion, no matter how briefly. The slaughter of innocents, especially children, was categorically wrong. Such actions could never be justified. What was happening? Why was she thinking this way? Was she ill, or was this her true self freed from the restraints of Jedi doctrine? A shiver ran through Ahsoka's body. If this was the real her, perhaps the Jedi had been justified in their actions. She wasn't worthy of being one of them. She was flawed, touched by darkness. She felt it seeping inside, contaminating her, slowly skewing her perceptions of right and wrong, changing her very being. Could she expunge it from her soul, or was it already too late? Was she doomed to become the thing she reviled and had vowed to destroy? Ahsoka feared she'd learn the answers sooner rather than later, whether she wanted to or not. Episode 2, Ahsoka's new tyrannical instructor. Sereno. 3 days after Ahsoka's abduction, afternoon. Count Dooku. Ahsoka said, eyes narrowing as she entered the grand hall of Dooku's ancestral castle. General Grievous, flanked by 2 Magna Guards, not so gently nudged Ahsoka forward. You are wasting time, Dooku. I will never help you, and I would rather die than become a dark acolyte, or worse yet, a full-fledged Sith. Brave but foolhardy words, my child. Dooku said, radiating calmness and sophistication in spite, or perhaps because, of the tense situation. Her Jedi weapon, my lord. Grievous said, stepping forward. He handed Ahsoka's lightsaber to the Count. Turning the device over in his hand before activating it with a snap hiss, Dooku examined Ahsoka's handiwork. He then gave Ahsoka's green blade several experimental thrusts and twirled it about, demonstrating great dexterity. A rudimentary if effective saber design, totally lacking elegance. I had hoped your skills were more advanced, pity. He said, deactivating Ahsoka's lightsaber. Dooku clasped it to the left side of his belt opposite his own hilt. Ahsoka rolled her eyes at Dooku's deprecating comments. As if I can what you think, Sith. I sense the conflict brewing within, threatening to overwhelm you. Dooku said. I sense confusion, fear, sadness, rage, but most of all hatred. Come, retrieve your lightsaber. I shall not resist. Dooku patted Ahsoka's hilt with his left hand. Give in, strike me down. I see, can't, Ahsoka stammered, turning away. Although if she did, maybe the Jedi would welcome her back with open arms, they might even knight her. Ahsoka shook the thought from her head. Leave us. Dooku commanded. At once, my lord, Grievous said, walking out of the massive chamber, his Magna Guards trailing behind. Once I also had faith in the Jedi Order. Dooku said, his voice becoming warm, sympathetic, almost comforting, until they betrayed that trust. I won't turn, Ahsoka said firmly, still not facing Dooku, no matter what you may say. I will remain in the light. I sense you lack direction, purpose. Dooku said. We can provide you with that. A new life is yours, all you must do is seize hold of it. I won't betray my master. Ahsoka said with conviction, turning around to face Dooku. Perhaps I should have him removed from the equation. Dooku said, stroking his beard thoughtfully. If he is what anchors you in the light, then he must be removed if we are to make progress. Yes, Skywalker must die. Please no, Ahsoka pleaded, her head swimming. Anakin, I can't let them hurt you. I have to do something, but what? Part of Ahsoka thought. Kill him, destroy the Sith monster. Use your power, strike down the old fool. Show Dooku he can't threat those you love. Another part of Ahsoka, which was growing ever stronger, thought. If not for yourself, then do it for Anakin. Yes, General Grievous' next mission has become apparent. Anakin Skywalker will fall to his blades. Dooku casually pronounced. I shall make the necessary arrangements. I'm sure the General will enjoy adding Skywalker's lightsaber to his growing collection. Dooku turned his back and slowly walked away from a distraught Ahsoka. Not if I kill you first. Ahsoka shrieked, rage boiling up inside. Calling her lightsaber through the Force, Ahsoka activated the blade, leaping towards Dooku with murderous intent. Gracefully pivoting on his heels, Dooku lazily parried Ahsoka's incoming violent downward thrust. Ahsoka switched to a reverse grip in midair. Spinning around like a top, she tried to land several more shots, all diagonal slashes, on Dooku, who avoided each via redirection. Dooku slightly changed the angle of his next parry, lightly cutting Ahsoka's right wrist. Howling in pain, Ahsoka dropped her lightsaber. Dooku used a powerful force push to smash Ahsoka against the nearest wok, winding her. How amateurish, Dooku said, shaking his head. Your technique is sloppy, unfocused, predictable, and easily neutralized. You require much training in wielding a lightsaber. It is painfully obvious your previous martial arts instructor was lacking in understanding. My master is a fantastic teacher, far better than you, Dooku. Ahsoka declared, struggling back to her feet. Ignoring the pain shooting through her body, including her aching right forearm, Ahsoka once more recalled her lightsaber, this time to her uninjured left hand, threw the Force and threw herself at Dooku. Ahsoka's second assault didn't fare much better than her first. After successfully repulsing 3 quick flurries of Ahsoka's Cheyenne-inspired thrusts, each strike set numbering 4 or more, Dooku again disarmed her by entangling their lightsabers. He then pulled away at such an angle that Ahsoka's lightsaber was thrown from her grip. It spun across the room. This time, when Ahsoka attempted to retrieve it, she found herself withering on the floor under torrents of Dooku's Force lightning, which instantly subdued her. Later you'll thank me for this advanced lesson, my new apprentice, Dooku said. If a Sith is to properly generate Force light, he or she must first experience the agony such a power causes. I hate you, Ahsoka managed between spasms of intense pain. Her eyes briefly turned a sickly yellow. Good, then we have begun, and I have taught you the first lesson of being a Sith. Hate is the dark side's most potent fuel, use it. Nurture it, let it sustain you. Dooku lectured, continuing his electrical bombardment upon Ahsoka. Only through embracing hatred shall you grow strong enough with the dark side to someday match my powers, and perhaps suppress them. I'll never be like you, Ahsoka said between gasps. She found breathing increasingly difficult. If Dooku didn't cease his attack soon, Ahsoka feared she'd die here alone on this dirty floor. Poor fool, destiny is a fickle mistress, Dooku said, cutting off the flow of lightning. Rest now, my child. A housekeeping droid shall be along soon. Follow it to your personal chambers, until we meet again. Dooku deactivated his lightsaber, returning it to his belt along with Ahsoka's hilt, which he summoned through the Force. Turning to depart, Dooku hesitated. He glanced over his shoulder at Ahsoka. By the way, henceforth refer to me by my proper title, Darth Tyrannus of Simply Tyrannus. Go to Sith hell, Ahsoka said, looking up at Dooku, rage smoldering in her blue eyes. Someday, Dooku said, gliding out of the room, his feet several inches above the floor. Ahsoka had no idea how long she lay there curled up in a fetal position. It seemed as if it were a long time, several hours at least. Outside light dimmed as afternoon gave way to evening. Ahsoka's mind wandered. She could hardly believe what had recently befallen to her. She'd gone from respected up-and-coming Jedi Padawan to hunted fugitive to outcast to Sith hostage in less than one standard week. What had she ever done to deserve such cruel twists of fate? Why had these things happened to her? Because of the Jedi, part of Ahsoka thought bitterly. If they'd had faith in me, I wouldn't be here now. I'd be with my master. I'd be safe, well, safe as one can be during a galactic civil war, surrounded by people who care about me instead of here at Dooku's and Grievous non-existent mercies. It is entirely the Council's fault. All I ever did was loyally, blindly serve them. In return they took everything away from me. They ruined my life. I hate them. I hate them all. Remember what Dooku said. Don't become what you have sown to fight against. Let go of your hate, or it'll consume you. Another part of Ahsoka warned. I don't care. Let it consume me. The first part of Ahsoka fired back. The Council more than deserves my hate. What about Anakin? Does he deserve my hate? The second part of Ahsoka countered. The Sith will destroy him along with all Jedi. I can't be part of that. I owe him too much. He continued believing in me when no one else would. He's my master and I'm his Padawan, forever. Ex-master, ex-Padawan, the first part of Ahsoka reminded herself. He probably doesn't care I'm alive anymore. Maybe he's already been assigned a new Padawan. I bet he isn't searching for me. I have to face facts. I'm on my own from now on. I can only depend on myself. If I'm to survive, I must not forget that. Ahsoka's troubled thoughts were interrupted by the arrival of a droid which identified itself as the housekeeping unit Dooku had mentioned. After helping Ahsoka to her unsteady feet, the droid led the exhausted, injured former Jedi Padawan to spacious quarters that contained a rather large bed on a raised platform. Off the main room was a well-equipped good-sized fresher along with 2 closets. Count Dooku hopes these quarters are to your liking, Miss Tano. The droid said. They're fine. Ahsoka said, waving the droid away. Once alone, Ahsoka collapsed onto the white comforter which covered her new bed. Sobbing softly, Ahsoka lay there remembering happier times. Finally closing her eyes, Ahsoka drifted off into a troubled sleep. Elsewhere in the enormous structure, Dooku knelt on one knee before a life-size flickering, blue hologram of his dreaded master Darth Sidious. What is your bidding, my master? He said with great respect. My apprentice, I take it our special guest has arrived safely. Darth Sidious hologram said. She has, my lord. Dooku said. I am curious, Lord Tyrannus. What are your first impressions of our new prospect? She has great potential, my master. I can sense the building conflict in her. However, she is also extremely stubborn. Dooku then hesitated slightly. Her loyalty to her former Jedi master, Skywalker, remains unshaken. Unless we can compromise her trust in him, she may never reach her full potential with the dark side. Precisely as I have foreseen, Darth Sidious hologram said, chuckling. Fortunately, our problem has a relatively simple solution. We shall make young Tano aware of her former master's most closely guarded secret. His clandestine relationship with Senator Amidala, Dooku said knowingly. Correct, when the time is right, inform Tano of her master's duplicity, Lord Tyrannus, Darth Sidious hologram said, smiling wickedly. Their bond will then forever be severed. Darth Sidious' sinister laughter filled Dooku's communication chamber. Coruscant 2 days later, afternoon. Barrisafi sat in her specialized force-resistant Republican prison cell, where she'd be transferred to from the Jedi Temple only yesterday, a force suppression collar clasped around her neck. Barriss glared through the red force field at her captors, a pair of clones troopers. Barriss detested the mindless clones with every fiber of her being. They were part of the problem as far as she was concerned. Their creation and use just another symptom of political corruption. Darth Sidious had been right. The Republic, along with the Jedi Order that supported it, was beyond redemption. Why are you here? One clone trooper asked a third, which suddenly appeared carrying a data pad and his pulse rifle. "Prisoner check," the new arrival said in an identical voice to his comrade. "Show me your orders," the second clone trooper on guard ordered. "Of course," the third clone trooper said, handing the second clone trooper his data pad. While the second clone trooper was inspecting it, the third fired a salvo from his pulse rifle into the first clone trooper, then the second. Both were dead within seconds. "About time," Barriss said, hopping off her bunk. "What are you waiting for? Free me." The now lone clone trooper lowered the force field, then gunned down the stunned Barriss before she could react in any way. The clone trooper removed Barriss' restraints and positioned her body between the fallen clones. He then scrambled the data recording devices and implanted a new forged data stream showing Barriss escaping and attacking the clones before being cut down. "Mission accomplished. I hope Lord Sidious rewards my efficiency accordingly," Cad Bane said, smirking within his stolen clone armor. Episode 3, Dark Lady of the Sith. 19 BBY. The Outer Rim. Jedi Master Kit Fisto breathed in the damp, rancid air. Of all places a new droid factory could have been constructed, why in Sith hell the Separatists had chosen this Force-forsaken garbage dump, Fisto had no idea. Following an odd tremor in the Force, Fisto moved away from his clone troopers who were doing battle with a squadron of B-2 battle droids. Finding himself alone in an artificial cave, the Nautolan almost didn't parry the incoming saber before it would have bisected his trunk. Breaking saber lock, Fisto leapt back, putting some distance between himself and his crimson blade-wielding assailant. "Bravo, Master Fisto. Few beings can sense my presence in the Force once cloaked, unless of course I allow them, as I did when I granted you that privilege moments ago," a black hooded figure with black gloved hands said. Her cold feminine voice dripped venomous hate with every syllable it spoke. From deep within her hood's shadowy recesses, Fisto thought, or perhaps fancied, he saw a glint of luminescent yellow eyes. "I see Dooku has found another dark acolyte," Fisto said, standing still while this new dark warrior circled around him like a carnivorous sea beast eyeing its prey. "I hope for your sake you last longer than your predecessors. Has Dooku informed you yet of their fates?" The dark warrior laughed, a sound akin to tinkling glassware. "I am much more than another simple, misguided dark acolyte. I am the sole apprentice of Darth Tyrannus and Darth Sidious. My name is Darth Sarin, Dark Lady of the Sith." "Sith," Fisto said in obvious disbelief. "Master Fisto, I've heard you're one of the best saber masters in the Jedi Order. I have come to ascertain if your reputation is deserved or rather inflated, as is much of modern Jedi lore," Darth Sarin said. "Come face me, prove you are superior, Master Fisto, unless of course you're afraid. I do not free the dark side, and I certainly do not fear an upstart such as you," Fisto said, gripping his emerald lightsaber with both hands. Sarin laughed, stopping her movement in front of Fisto. With a war cry, Fisto launched himself at Sarin. The Form Ishiicho Master applied elements of Form 4 Ataru in an attempt to overwhelm his opponent early on. Holding her lightsaber in her left hand, Sarin sidestepped and slashed or deflected Fisto's strikes with the grace of a dancer. Several flurries later, Fisto assumed a ground and pound style. The failure of his earlier acrobatic assaults making it clear Sarin's defense would not easily be penetrated. "I detect a heavy reliance upon Makashi in your dueling style," Fisto said. Sarin answered by way of telekinetically pulling a hunk of trash towards Fisto from behind without any visible effort. Fisto barely dodged the incoming missile by rolling away. Before Fisto could get up from his crouching position, Sarin's blade rained down two heavy vertical strikes upon Fisto, which he blocked with great difficulty. The power behind Sarin's chop-type slashes greatly surprised Fisto. Such ferocious saber work was well out of the usually realm of Form 2 Makashi, and in truth was much more like Form V Gemso. Pushing Sarin back several steps with the force, Fisto got to his feet. "Old fool," Sarin sneered. "My powers are clearly beyond your own. Soon I will crush you beneath my heel. Overconfidence has always been the downfall of the Sith," Fisto said. And arrogance has always been the fatal weakness of the Jedi? Sirin fired back, locking up sabers with Fisto and then releasing torrents of force lightning from her right hand towards the unlucky Jedi before he could pull away. Unable to ground himself using his lightsaber, Fisto withered under Sirin's electrical onslaught. Within seconds Fisto dropped to one knee then the other. Feeling himself weaken, Fisto pushed out with his remaining force power into Sirin, knocking the Sith off her feet. Free from her force lightning, Fisto struggled to his feet. Staggering away, Fisto was blindsided by a piece of flying debris made up of a tangle of heavy, broken cables which impacted with his head, opening a deep gash on his forehead which oozed dark blue blood. Fisto was on the ground, Sirin looming over him, her humming red blade millimeters from his throat. "Ready to meet the Force, Master Fisto?" Sirin asked condescendingly. "Not yet," Fisto croaked, retrieving his lightsaber with the Force. Fisto used it to meet Sirin's own. Summoning strength he didn't know he possessed, Fisto forced Sirin away from him as he regained his footing. "I'm a Jedi Master, we are not easily vanquished." "I know," Sirin said, her voice assuming a joyous tone. Without warning, Sirin went berserk. Power blow after power blow from every conceivable angle crashed into Fisto's crumbling defenses. Slowly, inextricably, Sirin backed Fisto up towards the nearest wall. Detecting Sirin's strategy, Fisto attempted to fight back, directing a feeble force push towards Sirin which she reflected back on him. When Fisto stumbled, dropping his guard, Cryan struck with relentless speed and power, running her lightsaber through Fisto's torso. Fisto released a silent scream and dropped his lightsaber which Sirin caught in her free hand. With a mighty swing of Fisto's green blade, Sirin decapitated Fisto. Leaving the fallen Jedi Master behind her, Sirin proceeded outside where she single-handedly turned the tide of battle against Republican forces, slaughtering an entire battalion of clone troopers. Although keeping her face hidden within the confines of her large hood, Sirin made sure every surviving clone knew her name. By the following standard day, everyone in both the Republic and Sith knew there was a new Sith. A mysterious dark lady who had slain renowned Jedi Master Kit Fisto. Things would never be the same again. The Jedi Temple on Coruscant Day, 3 stand days after the incident on asteroid 2311 VC. "Troubling is this news, troubling and unexpected," Yoda said from his seat, his fellow council members exchanging worried glances. "Bluntly put, I don't understand this latest development," the life-sized blue hologram of Ki-Adi Mundi said. "Always two Sith there have been since the days of Darth Bane and Darth Zana, a master to embody power and an apprentice to crave it. Something has clearly changed this age-old dynamic," Mac Windu said. "Could this shifted in outlook be caused by the fairly recent destruction and defection of so many dark acolytes?" Shaak Ti asked. "Perhaps," Obi-Wan said. "However, I sense there is more to it than that. We must tread carefully," Plo Koon's hologram said. "The dark side clouds everything. Powerful this new young Sith is," Yoda said. "Learn her secrets we must. She should be terminated at once," Mac Windu said. "We cannot afford to lose any more Jedi. Our numbers are already precariously low as is." Obi-Wan shook his head, muttering to himself. "Is something troubling you, Master Kenobi?" Shaak Ti said, turning her attention towards the human Jedi Master. "Something you'd like to share with the Council at large?" "Asajj Ventress," Obi-Wan said. "We could have turned her towards the light, if only we'd tried harder. It could be ordering this woman's, perhaps girls', execution is not the proper avenue we should be pursuing. One could argue if we'd terminated Ventress when we had the chance, many innocent lives, not least of which Jedi, could have been saved," Mac Windu countered. "We can't go soft now, Master Kenobi. With all due respect, Master Windu, even we on the Jedi Council have no right ordering by decree Darth Sirin's or anyone else's death without first holding a free, impartial trial," Obi-Wan said. "Too often during this war we've behaved as petty gods rather than guardians of truth and justice." "That's enough, Master Kenobi," Mac Windu said through gritted teeth. "You've made your point." "No, I haven't. Obi-Wan said. This war has changed us, we all know it has. We can all feel it. The Force itself seems different than it was before. What are you suggesting we do, Master Kenobi, if not seek the new Sith Lady's death? Ki-Adi-Mundi's hologram asked. I'm not sure. Obi-Wan admitted, his shoulders slumping. However, I know more violence and death isn't the answer. Far too many have died violently already. Once the Separatists are defeated and the Sith destroyed, peace will again reign. Mace Windu said, dismissing Obi-Wan's concerns. Our duty is to hold the fabric of the Republic together until victory is achieved on all fronts, a duty we shall fulfill as we always have. I hope you're correct, Master Windu. I truly do. Obi-Wan said, earning him a poisonous glare from Windu. Adjourned until further notice, the council is. Yoda said, seeking in part to relieve the growing tension he felt festering into personal animosity between Obi-Wan and Windu. Reflecting inwardly, Yoda secretly hoped things would soon improve. The loss of Master Fisto had been a terrible blow. One from which the Jedi Order would have a hard time recovering. What the Order didn't need right now was animosity between its members, especially those on the council, becoming known. Such must be prevented by all means. Invisible hand traveling through interstellar space, one day later. Greetings, Lady Sarin, we have been expecting you. General Grievous said, giving a quick bow at the waist. News of your exploits of protecting our new droid factory on asteroid 2311 VC has spread far. Congratulations on your Jedi kill. May Master Fisto be the first of many. Darth Sarin pulled back her thick, black hood, revealing the face of the being once known as Jedi Padawan Ahsoka Tano. Sarin passed by Grievous, her black-gloved hand almost lovingly stroked his shoulder before trailing down his right arm. Long will it be before my exploits equal your own, General. Sarin purred, grinning as she walked away. Unlike that harpy Ventress she had quickly learned when dealing with Grievous and his ilk, a little flattery and seduction did wonders. Leaving the bridge, Sarin soon found her assigned quarters. Entering the room, she immediately fell to one knee upon the centrally located hologram emitter pad. Bowing her head, Sarin activated the device. "Ah, Lady Sarin returned from a successful mission, I hear." The full-sized flickering hologram of Count Dooku said. "Yes, our droid factory has been secured, Master." Sarin said, her yellow eyes looking up to meet Dooku's holographic ones. "Wonderful news, Lord Sidious shall be most pleased, as am I." Dooku's hologram said, clasping his hands together. "There is more, Master." Sarin said, excitement creeping into her voice. "Using your, General Grievous and Lord Sidious training, I bested Jedi Master and Council member Kit Fisto. Behold his lightsaber." Sarin said, proudly holding the hilt up before the image of her master for inspection. "You have progressed quickly, apprentice." Dooku said, the hint of a smile played across his otherwise placid features. "Soon the best of the Jedi will be no match for your skills. Truly a worthy successor to the Sith legacy you are becoming." "Thank you, Master," Sarin said, beaming at Dooku's praise. "I am ready for my next assignment." "What is your bidding, Master?" "Jedi Master Ki-Adi-Mundi's clone troopers are reinforcing the garrison on Miji-Tu. Accompany General Grievous to Miji-Tu. Make certain Miji-Tu is Ki-Adi-Mundi tomb." Dooku said. "They will be done, Master." Sarin said. With an incline of his head, Dooku's hologram vanished. Alone in her quarters, Sarin couldn't help but reflect on the journey that brought her to where she was today, a journey that had begun 1 year ago. 20 BBY. Sereno, morning. "I trust you slept well, my new apprentice," Dooku said, entering Ahsoka's quarter where she was finishing breakfast, which one of the housekeeping droids had brought her 10 minutes before. Ahsoka didn't answer Dooku at first. "Not feeling talkative, I see," Dooku observed. "I'll never be your apprentice. You tortured me with Force lightning," Ahsoka finally said. "What do you expect, Dooku? It was part of your training," Dooku said, offering not further explanation or defense of his actions. "Don't expect a thank you holocard anytime soon." Ahsoka said, rolling her eyes. Not soon, but someday. Dooku said. Training commences in 20 minutes. A housekeeping droid will be dispatched to guide you. Dooku departed, leaving Ahsoka to finish her meal in peace. Old Kiffer, Ahsoka said under her breath. 20 minutes later, Ahsoka found herself in a large, outdoor courtyard lined with dozens of obelisks of varying sizes. Dooku stood at one end while Ahsoka occupied the other. A great distance of empty space separated them. Watch, learn, my apprentice. Dooku said, raising his arms. What happened next awed Ahsoka in spite of her best attempts to stay nonplussed. Via manipulation of the Force, Dooku raised all the obelisks over 3 meters in the air and held them there for a solid 30 seconds before gently depositing them back into their respective receptacles. Now you try. Mustering all her strength in the Force, Ahsoka concentrated on the task at hand. Initially her results were disappointing, the obelisks hardly budged. I can't. Ahsoka said, feeling her body stressed to its limit. Yes you can. Dooku countered. I can't. Ahsoka said, dropping the few, smaller obelisks she'd slightly moved back down. Move them or die. Dooku said, reaching out with the Force. He choked Ahsoka. Falling to her knees, Ahsoka clawed at her neck, fear in her eyes. Move them, I will release you. Fail to do so, I will suffocate you. Victory is life, failure is death, always remember that, apprentice. Having no other choice, Ahsoka focused all her intentions on moving the stones. The tighter Dooku's invisible grip grew, the more her mind filled with anger. Anger then gave way to hate as the former Jedi fantasized about what she would do to her cruel instructor once given the opportunity. Drawing on these potent emotions, though she knew it was wrong and not the Jedi way, Ahsoka opened her internal floodgates, lifting all the stones at once. She held them up nearly as long as Dooku had before, feeling her hold loosen. Go, you used your anger and hatred. They make you strong. Dooku said. That is enough for now, until further notice. Roam free, my apprentice. Dooku turned away from the coughing Ahsoka, hands behind his back. One day I'll see you dead by my hand, Dooku. Ahsoka announced, startling herself with the vehemence of her words. Dooku smirked. We all need goals to work towards. Congratulations on discovering yours, my apprentice. If looks could kill, Ahsoka would have been guilty of homicide. She stared daggers at the departing Sith Lord. Her mind a turbulent storm of negative emotions. Ahsoka picked herself up off the ground and wandered around Dooku's estate without direction or purpose. Defying her attempts to quash them, her mind remained full of dark thoughts, mainly centered on avenging herself upon Dooku, thoughts unbecoming of a Jedi. Episode 4, Return. 19 BBY. Muyunalinst, Night. While his clone legions stage a fierce operation against General Grievous battle droids, Jedi Master Ki-Adi-Mundi found himself facing off against the newest Sith, Darth Sarin. Immediately Ki-Adi-Mundi noticed some interesting points about his enemy. She was somewhat short and was dressed in a black hooded robe, dark grey tunic with black boots and matching dark grey gloves. Her face was covered by a dark grey mask with a dull red swirl pattern and eye holes which revealed Sith yellow eyes. The eye structure was the only clue to Sarin's possible identity. Unfortunately, her eye structure was amongst the most common in the galaxy, giving little hint of her planet of origin. Ki-Adi-Mundi silently cursed, wishing Sarin had been a Rodian or some other species clearly identifiable by their eyes. The remaining point of note was the design of Sarin's Sith red lightsaber. In all his years, Ki-Adi-Mundi had never seen another quite like it. Sarin's hilt was black in coloration, slightly curved as well as slightly longer than standard for her hand size. The hilt had a silver ridge that ran along one side, obviously for finger grips, ending in an elongated silver ball, and had a rounded blade guard surrounding the emitter. Tell me, Master Mundi, how does it feel? Sarin said, effortlessly dueling Ki-Adi-Mundi to a standstill using her left hand, another unorthodox aspect of her dueling style. How does what feel, Sith? Ki-Adi-Mundi asked, his voice filled with strain. In spite of his best efforts, keeping up with the much younger Sith lady was proving difficult. Knowing you're going to die. Sirin said. Ki-Adi Mundi smiled knowingly. Your done mach won't work on me, child. Perhaps, Sirin said. Then again perhaps it already has. Sirin used the distraction she'd caused to trip Ki-Adi Mundi with the force. She then fell upon him with the same gem so inspired fury she'd used the week prior against the flattering Kit Fisto. Ki-Adi Mundi had no time to recover. Sirin was bashing violently against his flagging defenses before his back touched the group. If Ki-Adi Mundi hadn't been a Sorsu expert, he'd have succumbed within seconds. Using up much of his remaining force power, Ki-Adi Mundi both pushed Sirin away and lifted his prone form off the ground. Sweating profusely, Ki-Adi Mundi limped away, hoping to escape before Sirin could recover from his telekinetic attack. He had no such luck. With a powerful force scream that temporarily paralyzed Ki-Adi Mundi in place, Sirin flew through the air, landing in front of him. Going somewhere, Master Ki-Adi Mundi? Sirin taunted, her voice cold as a hot glacier. Defend yourself or be cut down where you stand, Jedi. Sirin swung her blade elegantly overhead, slashing downward with tremendous force-assisted power which nearly broke Ki-Adi Mundi's saber arm. His blue blade having barely intercepted her crimson blade in time. Give up, and I'll grant you a merciful end. Resist and I'll gut you like a wampa would its prey. If that be the will of the Force, so be it. Ki-Adi Mundi said, summoning his last reserve of physical strength augmented by his almost depleted force energy. He pushed back against Sirin, breaking their saber lock. He then unleashed in rapid succession 3 flurries of Ataru-based offense, the form which he had made him famous. In response, Sirin reverted to the second cornerstone of her personal style, Makashi. Sirin skillfully deflected each blow while pivoting around the battlefield with all the grace of a top-level dancer, patiently waiting out Ki-Adi Mundi's final desperate counter-attacker. While I have enjoyed our dance, all things must end. Sirin said, changing the angle of her incoming blade following another deflection of Ki-Adi Mundi's own. Her strategy had the desired effect. Sirin's lightsaber cleanly amputated Ki-Adi Mundi's right forearm. Screaming in pain, Ki-Adi Mundi clutched his sizzling stump with his remaining hand, his force shields now fully gone. Sirin pulled Ki-Adi Mundi towards her. Using the force, she impaled Master Mundi's torso on her outstretched blade. Another pathetically predictable opponent, Sirin sneered, shaking her head. Remembering her detailed instructions, Sirin retrieved Ki-Adi Mundi's discarded lightsaber hilt via the force. Can't disappoint my master, now can I? Putting her own lightsaber away, Sirin activated a wrist-mounted communicator on her right arm. General, I've dealt with Jedi Master Ki-Adi Mundi. Excellent news, a miniature, flickering blue hologram of General Grievous said. My troops are finishing mop-up duty as we speak, our mission having been a complete success. Lords Tyrannus and Sidious will be most pleased. Sirin said. General Grievous readily agreed. Count Dooku's fortress on Sereno 10 months prior, morning. You've been with us how long now, apprentice? Dooku asked. The peer standing in one of Dooku's many spacious living rooms. 2 months, Ahsoka said. 2 months what? Dooku said expectedly. 2 months, master. Ahsoka said through gritted teeth. While she still hated calling Dooku master, about a week ago she'd unconsciously slipped into the habit. Deciding there was no advantage in resisting further on such a minor point of etiquette. Beside, once she'd given in, Dooku had all but stopped abusing her with the Force. His Force chokes and lightning strikes had become infrequent during the past week, a fair trade of so Ahsoka assumed at the time. Defend yourself, apprentice. Dooku said, calling forth his lightsaber and allowing Ahsoka to call her own hilt from where it rested on Dooku's belt. Remember what I have taught. Use your anger, but under no circumstances let it control you. Only through mastery of oneself can one achieve mastery over others. Ahsoka circled Dooku. She did not, however, strike, instead preferring to let the aging Force user make the first move. She'd already learned during her brief apprenticeship under Dooku it was much safer that way. The wily Count was greatly adept at exploiting any error, no matter how small. Best to let him make the first move, then wait for an opening. After delivering his traditional Makashi salute, Dooku spun around clockwise. The point of his blade very nearly penetrating Ahsoka's heart, and would have if not for her own blade intercepting Dooku's a split second beforehand. Sith didn't believe in the use of harmless training sabers as did Jedi. Every battle was considered to be potentially life or death stakes. Training sessions were no different. Amongst the Sith only the strongest survived and excelled, which was one of their key secrets to success. Whereas there had been literally thousands of Jedi over the past millennium, by comparison about 50 Sith and their acolytes had existed during that same time. Sith had to be better than most Jedi, including Masters, otherwise they'd have died out long ago. Sith born of the Order of Two were the ultimate survivors because they had to be. With difficulty, though far less than when they'd first started sparring 2 months again, Ahsoka parried several more flourishes from Dooku. Slowly Ahsoka was becoming frustrated with her lack of a capable offense. Whenever she tried to mount such a maneuver, Dooku would quickly shut her down, dictating a return to defensive saber work. Yes, you have improved greatly since I first evaluated your saber skills, apprentice. Since that time your style has grown much more refined, balanced and precise. Disappointingly, however, you continue to lack focus. Dooku used the Force to fling a lightly constructed, folding chair at Ahsoka. Momentarily taking her focus off Dooku so as to deflect the incoming projectile, Ahsoka found herself clutching her shallowly slashed right hand in pain, Dooku's blade at her throat. Win the battle, lose the war, apprentice. Never permit an opponent to dictate the pace, doing so only courts defeat. Yes, master, Ahsoka said, her eyes a poisonous yellow. How she longed to crush the life from Dooku's body. Wipe that smug expression from his aristocratic face. Good, use your hate. Dooku said, calling Ahsoka's now deactivated lightsaber to him. He clipped both hilts, one more along his belt. Strike me down, I am unarmed. Die, tormentor, Ahsoka screeched, throwing herself at Dooku, recalling her lightsaber as she did. Now firmly grasped in her left hand, the shimmering emerald blade sliced through the air. Dooku deftly dodged to the right, then the left, then moved back a step, then another. Each time her target escaped harm, Ahsoka roared with mounting rage, redoubling the speed and power behind her assault. Once she showed signs of fatigue, Dooku chose to end the charade with a torrent of Force lightning. Her saber once more freed from her hands, Ahsoka at first withered under Dooku's attack. Something suddenly snapped in Ahsoka's mind. Her eyes set with grim determination, Ahsoka took a shaky step forward, followed by another. There is no pain. Pain is merely in the mind. Ahsoka thought, slowly advancing on Dooku. Through passion I gain strength. Through strength I gain power. Through power I gain victory. The Sith mantra Dooku had recently taught her echoing through her mind. Raising her hands in front of her body, Ahsoka began absorbing the hateful energy. Without thinking, she was soon directing a great deal of the lightning back at its source. Winching in pain, Dooku maintained the current until it threatened his own survival. Delivering one last massive surge, he knocked Ahsoka off her feet. An impressive first combative use of Tudamani's apprentice, Dooku admitted once he'd caught his breath. Thank you, master, I think. Ahsoka said, back on her own feet after much struggle. Your inherent abilities in the Force continue to exceed our expectations. Dooku said, turning away from Ahsoka, clasping his hands behind his back. You keep mentioning another, my master. Who are we? Do you speak of your own master, Darth Sidious? Ahsoka said. Sidious' name, if not identity, was well known within the Jedi ranks and had been since Dooku basically outed the Elder Sith Lord at the start of the war a decade ago. Yes, was Dooku's only reply. When will I have the honor of meeting Lord Sidious? Ahsoka said, pressing on. When he decides you are ready, not a moment before, Dooku said. When might that be? Ahsoka said. In time, Dooku said. In the interim, enjoy the free use of your lightsaber, you've earned my apprentice. Gingerly Ahsoka, fearing another trick, kneeled down, retrieving her hilt. Without another word or gesture exchanged between them, Dooku exited, leaving Ahsoka alone with her Jedi weapon and her swirling thoughts. The Republican Senate building, Coruscant. 10 months later, noon. Ahsoka, is that really you? Padme asked, shocked to see the Togruta girl again on Coruscant, let alone in the cafeteria of the Senate building after what transpired the previous year. In the flesh, Ahsoka said with a quick smile, her freshly pressed new uniform impeccable. I never thought I'd see you again. What are you doing here? Padme said after hugging her husband's former Padawan. As it turns out, the Supreme Chancellor felt terrible about what happened to me. He had his diplomatic staff track me down and offer me a position. Ahsoka explained. A position? What kind of position did he offer you, Ahsoka? Padme asked, noting Ahsoka's crimson ringed by blue attire. That of his personal bodyguard, Ahsoka said, proudly patting the officer's tunic she wore. The hilt of her old Jedi lightsaber clipped to the right side of her black belt, while a modified blaster occupied the left side. High black boots completed her look. Can you believe it, Padme? I'm now the personal bodyguard of the most powerful being in the Republic. Sure beats scrounging for scraps on some outer rim mu ball like spent the last year doing. Wonderful news, it's good to have you back, Ahsoka. I can't wait to tell Anakin. He'll be so happy. Padme said. I'd rather you didn't. Ahsoka said firmly, a gleam in her eye that Padme couldn't place. Why? Padme said, taken aback by Ahsoka's unexpected reply. I'd rather leave that chapter of my life closed if it is all the same, Padme, Ahsoka said. But Anakin, Obi-Wan, Master Plo Koon all care deeply about your well-being. Padme said. Anakin was worried sick after you left the Order. Really, huh? They sure have a funny way of showing it. Ahsoka said, a bitter edge to her voice. Ahsoka, Padme said. I don't want to see the Jedi again, until I'm ready. Please don't tell them I'm back on Coruscant, Padme. Give me your word you won't tell them. Ahsoka pleaded, her expression becoming sad. Although it was against her better judgment, Padme acceded to Ahsoka's demand. They'll find out eventually anyway, probably sooner than later given your new position. I know, Ahsoka said. If you'll excuse me, Padme, my lunch break is nearly over and the Chancellor appreciates punctuality and efficiency about all else. Goodbye, Ahsoka, hope we meet again soon. Padme said, heading off. As do I, Padme. Ahsoka said, unobserved by either Padme or her attendants. A sinister smile briefly played across Ahsoka's features, vanishing without trace a few seconds later. Following an afternoon of official tedium, Ahsoka and Palpatine were at last alone in Palpatine's office. Drawing the curtains tightly shut and locking the door, Ahsoka fell down on one knee before the Grand Master of the Sith Order. Sidious placed his Sith cowl over his face, fully adopting his dark persona. Rise, my apprentice. Darth Sidious commanded. Have you brought the item I requested? Ki-Adi Mundi's lightsaber as requested, my one true master. Darth Sirin said, getting to her feet and removing a silver cylinder from her officer's tunic. Taking the device through the Force, Sidious inspected it, carefully turning it over several times in his hands. Once more you've exceeded my expectations, Lady Sirin. You are truly a worthy successor to the mantle of the Sith. Given time, I foresee a legendary Sith you shall no doubt become, perhaps even great than I one day. Perhaps, Sirin said, taking no steps to disguise her lust for the degree of power Sidious wielded. Be mindful, Lady Sirin, your thoughts betray you. Sidious scolded, firing a short yet intense volley of Force lightning into Sirin, who bore the onslaught stoically, showing no outward signs of discomfort in spite of acute pain. Remember who the student is and who the teacher is in our relationship. Trust me, I do, Master. Sirin said, a barely detectable edge of threat to her voice. If Sidious picked up on it, he gave no outward indication. Excellent, now on to more pressing matters, Sidious said, grinning manically. Did you meet with Senator Amidala as I instructed? I did, Master. Sirin said, her voice filling with disgust. She is indeed with child. She attempted to conceal that fact, but I could detect the new life growing within her through the Force. Furthermore, I feel the father is a force sensitive of great power, no doubt my former master as you suspect. I knew it. Sidious said, his smile fading into a frown. These children cannot be permitted to grow up in the light side of the force. If they did, I foresee powerful future enemies they would become. Children, master, Seren said, titling her head slightly in confusion. Yes, I have foreseen Padme is carrying twins. Your reconnaissance work has confirmed my suspicions. Sidious said. Should I kill Padme, master, thereby preventing their birth? Seren asked, a hint of sadistic pleasure in her voice. I don't want her dead, at least not yet. Sidious said. The children could prove a valuable asset, if properly trained under our tutelage. The question is how best to secure them. Can we perhaps turn my former master Anakin Skywalker? Seren offered. Perhaps, Sidious said. However, I've sensed him drifting away from the dark side in recent months. We cannot count on him joining us. What course of action do you propose instead, master? Ahsoka said. Worry not, Lady Seren, I will think of something. I always do. Sidious laughed, his evil grin having returned. To be continued.